Before I go through actually cleaning your data with the next couple videos, I just want to go over some best practices. So when we're working in sheets, you have a couple different ways that you can do this. When you're transforming variables, so for example, this variable right here where it says, are you at least 18 years old? I'm going to change this response to either be a number or I could make it a shorter value, like I could make it yes and no. So are you 18 years old? 18 years old, at least 18 years old could be a yes response. And then if they say no, it'd be a no response. The reason for that is that it's the reason we do these transformations is to make it easier to analyze and easier to work with, and also more difficult to make mistakes. So we're trying to kind of error proof our data. And so in Sheets, you can transform by doing find and replace. And so we have this raw data, or you might just have it say form responses one. I just have raw data on here. So I have this that I'm not going to touch. And so I can go back and look at this and make sure that these responses match any transformations I make. So let's say that I change clean data, I use find and replace, and now if they say I am 18 years old or older, I would transform it to say yes. I can look back at my raw data and I can say, okay, that's correct. That's not as error proof as I would like. And since we have enough time for this class for data cleaning, I do want you to do this the correct way. So I think the best way, in my opinion, for cleaning data in Sheets is that you can create your columns as you can duplicate a column basically. So I'm going to insert new columns. So I'm going to go through in the next videos. I'll, insert new columns here. And so this would be the original data. And then I'll create a new variable here that's going to be our new informed consent. So I could say IC underscore clean as an example. And then I can use a formula. So I can say equals if, and then I can click on this one and say if B2 equals, I agree to participate. I have to put it in quotations so that it knows that that's the whole response I'm looking for, that it's a character response and not a number. So if B2 equals that I agree to participate, then I want it to give me a yes. And then if not, I want it to give me a no. And those are the only two options for this one. They're either agreeing or they're not. If they left it blank, that's a no, because it's an informed consent question. And so what will happen here is that if this falls into, again, if it says yes to agree, or they say I agree to participate, it's going to change that value to a yes in this new column. And so I can see by looking at it right next to it that this worked. I can see agree to participate. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, look at that. I do not agree to participate. And then notice this except to view further. This is previewing what it would be if I copied this down. I'm going to actually reject the suggestion, and it's easier to just drag this down. So you can either double click or you can just drag this down to copy all the way down. And I have, again, I'm going to go through this in another video, but I just want to show you how this logic works. So then go back up to our do not agree. There they are. And it's a no. Right? You can also change this. So you could have it, if you like to put it all in numbers, you could just say 1 for yes and 0 for no. And again, just drag it down. I'll accept it that time. The problem is that sometimes it actually did work correctly. So sometimes if you have a blank response, oh, that wasn't blank, that said no. If you had a blank response, it might not carry all the way down. So you just want to make sure that your formula carries all the way down. And then when we upload this into Jamovi, we'll change 1 to yes. We'll add a label to it. And so there's some benefits for doing that. But basically, this is an example of a best practice where you have both columns next to each other, and so there's much less likely. It's much less likely that you'll make an error and not catch it, because I can see that that's what it's supposed to be, right? I can look at this and be like, oh yeah, that's supposed to be a 1, and so that's something that I'm going to have you do for this study. And most of you don't have a huge number of variables. Those of you that do, you can duplicate your formulas pretty easily. But that's why we're going to do this. Whereas if we just did a find and replace, if I made an error, maybe this would come up with a 0 or a no, and I would have to look here very purposefully and find it in my raw data. So we're going to create these new columns for new variables here. So the next videos, I'm just going to walk through that process. If you're using other programs, if you were actually in Jamovi, then you could do that. One of the benefits of doing this, even though we're going to be working in Jamovi, is that I want you to have some basic practice with formulas in Sheets because it's good experience. And then we will do some things in Jamovi still. So you'll get practice in both of them. And that's it for this video.